1/3 of the world's land is now severely degraded. This is not a distant problem for a future generation. It is a clear and present danger unfolding today. 2025, October 13th. The process has a clinical name, desertification, but its reality is anything but sterile. Desertification is the steady process by which fertile, productive land transforms into a dry, barren, and inhospitable wasteland. It is a silent drought, a slow-moving crisis that erodes the very foundation of our global food system. This is not the expansion of existing natural deserts, but the human-induced degradation of land in arid, semi-arid, dry, sub-humid areas, turning once thriving ecosystems into dust. The scale is staggering, affecting the livelihoods of over 2 billion people who depend directly on this land for their survival. This slow-motion catastrophe often escapes the daily headlines, yet its symptoms are visible to those who know where to look. To understand how to fight desertification, we must first understand its complex origins. This is not a single villain story. It is a tragedy of 1,000 small cuts. One of the primary drivers is climate change. Rising global temperatures accelerate evaporation from soil and water bodies, creating a thirstier atmosphere that pulls moisture from the land. Shifting and increasingly erratic rainfall patterns leave historically fertile regions parched for extended periods, disrupting natural cycles farmers have relied upon. A prolonged drought, supercharged by a warmer climate, can be the final push that tips a fragile ecosystem over the edge, initiating a downward spiral of degradation. Alongside climatic pressures are the direct impacts of how we manage the land. Unsustainable agricultural practices play a significant role. Continuous plowing breaks down soil structure, leaving it vulnerable to erosion by wind and water. Overuse of chemical fertilizers and pesticides kills beneficial soil life. Planting the same monoculture year after year depletes nutrients, leaves soil exhausted and weak. The progression of desertification is not a sudden event, but a slow, creeping illness that leaves distinctive scars upon the land. The first and most obvious sign is a visible reduction in vegetative cover. Where once there was a mosaic of grasses, shrubs, trees, the landscape begins to thin out. Patches of bare earth appear and slowly expand like wounds on the skin of the planet. Hardy, drought-resistant species may initially take over, but as conditions worsen, even these tenacious plants struggle to survive. This loss of vegetation creates a feedback loop. With fewer plants to hold the soil and cycle nutrients, the land becomes even less hospitable to new growth. Healthy soil is a living, breathing ecosystem teeming with microorganisms, fungi, and organic matter that give it a dark, crumbly structure. Under the relentless pressure of desertification, this living soil dies. The degradation of our planet's soil is not merely an environmental issue. It is a direct and escalating threat to global food security. Nearly all of our food comes from the soil. When farmland degrades, its capacity to produce crops diminishes. That means lower yields, less food from the same land. For a smallholder farmer, a 10% reduction in yield can mean the difference between eating and a season of hunger. Multiplied across millions of farms, that becomes a dent in the global food supply and makes the whole system more fragile. Reduced output ripples from the local village market to the international commodity exchange. Scarcity drives up staple food prices. The poorest households are hit hardest. Many spend over half their income on food. Families cut back on quantity and nutrition, causing long-term health consequences, especially for children. Countries once self-sufficient may turn to expensive imports, straining budgets and exposing them to global price shocks. Pressure on land fuels migration and conflict. When land can't support families, people have few choices. Disputes over access to water and grazing land can escalate between communities and across borders. Desertification acts as a threat multiplier, worsening instability in fragile regions. Despite the daunting scale of desertification, the battle is far from lost. Proven, practical solutions exist that can breathe life back into degraded landscapes. Success begins at the most fundamental level, with the farmer and the soil. A suite of practices known as conservation agriculture offers a powerful toolkit for restoring soil health. One key technique is no-till or minimum tillage farming, where farmers plant seeds directly into the unplowed soil of the previous crop. This simple change minimizes soil disturbance, allowing its natural structure to remain intact, which greatly improves water absorption and reduces erosion. This method, combined with the use of cover crops, plants grown to cover the soil rather than for harvest, protects the land from the baking sun, protects the land from harsh winds, suppresses weeds, and adds vital organic matter back into the earth. Improving how we manage grazing lands is another critical intervention. Rotational grazing gives each section of land time to recover and regrow. Managed well, livestock can help break crusts, cycle organic matter, and rebuild fertility. Reforestation and agroforestry create microclimates that protect crops and soil. Protecting regrowth from existing stumps has transformed vast, degraded areas, boosting yields and incomes. While individual actions on farms and in local communities are the bedrock of land restoration, they cannot succeed in isolation. To combat desertification on a global scale, we need robust and supportive government policies. National governments must create the enabling environment for change. This includes establishing clear land tenure rights, giving farmers the security to invest in long-term soil health. When farmers have secure claims, they plant trees and invest in sustainable infrastructure. Governments can realign agricultural subsidies away from practices that degrade the land and toward those that regenerate it. International cooperation is essential. The United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification sets a framework for land degradation neutrality. Supporting this convention with adequate funding and political will is crucial. Developed nations must provide financial and technical support to frontline countries. Advances in remote sensing and satellite imagery help monitor degradation in real time for early intervention. Extension services, farmer-to-farmer networks, and mobile tools spread best practices quickly. We must value healthy land as natural capital, the foundation of our health, wealth, and well-being. Account for true costs and the value of clean water, carbon sequestration, and biodiversity. Build a broad-based movement for land restoration. We stand at a critical juncture. The silent crisis of desertification poses an undeniable and urgent risk to our global food supply, to the stability of human societies. The steady conversion of fertile fields into barren dust is not a distant, abstract threat. It is an active unraveling of the ecological fabric that sustains us. Diminished harvests, rising food prices, widespread hunger, forced migration are already a reality for millions and will impact us all if we fail to act decisively. The land is speaking to us through failing crops and expanding deserts. Its message is clear. We cannot continue to take its health for granted. The future of our food begins with the health of our soil. The good news is, this is a challenge we can meet. We have the knowledge, the tools, and inspiring examples of success, from the regenerated farmlands of the Sahel to the greened hills of the Los Plateau. These solutions work with nature, nurturing soil life, planting trees, managing water wisely, adapting farming systems to be regenerative, not extractive. Therefore, I ask you to take one simple, powerful step: support regeneration.